If they want to do it, so is it
Yang berbahagia Datuk Seri Muhammad Syamsuddin Muhammad Yunus, Chairman of the Human Rights Commission of Malaysia, Suhakam, along with His Excellency Mr. Edmund Bon Tai Soon, a Chair and Malaysian representative to the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commissions of Human Rights, AICHA. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera and a very good morning. Yang berbahagia Datuk Seri Muhammad Syamsuddin Muhammad Yunus, Chairman of the Human Rights Commission of Malaysia, Suhakam, His Excellency Edmund Bon Tai Soon, Chair and Malaysian Representative to the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commissions of Human Rights, AICHA, Excellencies, Suhakam Commissioners, distinguished guests, members of the media, representatives from civil society organizations and NGOs, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Suhakam, welcome to the media and diplomatic briefing on ASEAN Malaysia 2025 Deliverables on Human Rights, held here in the Inquiry Rooms, Level 17 of Menara Aras Raya, Kuala Lumpur. We truly appreciate your presence this morning as we gather to discuss two landmark ASEAN commitments recently adopted by ASEAN leaders at the 47th ASEAN Summit, signifying an important moment in ASEAN's evolving human rights landscape. Today's briefing focuses on two major regional initiatives. First, the ASEAN declarations on the right to a safe, clean, healthy, and sustainable environment. Also, the ASEAN declaration on promoting the right to development and the right to peace towards realizing inclusive and sustainable development. Both declarations represent ASEAN's strengthened commitment to environmental protection, sustainable development, peace, human rights, and regional cooperation. They also reflect ASEAN's increasing assertiveness as a global actor, especially in the context of climate change and broader government issues. So, as Malaysia's national human rights institutions, SWACAM plays an essential role in supporting Malaysia leadership in these regional efforts, including promoting awareness and facilitating alignment between national and regional frameworks. So, ladies and gentlemen, to begin our program, I am honored to invite Yang Berbahagia Datuk Seri Muhammad Syamsuddin Muhammad Yunus, a Chairman of Human Rights Commission of Malaysia, to deliver his welcoming remarks. Datuk Seri, the floor is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning and salam sejahtera. His Excellency, Mr. Edmund Bon Tai Soon, representative of Malaysia and chair to the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights. Excellencies, members of the media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Human Rights Commission of Malaysia, Suhakam, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you to today's media and diplomatic briefing on ASEAN Malaysia 2025 Deliverables on Human Rights. Thank you for making the time to join us this morning. Today's briefing focuses on two landmark documents adopted by ASEAN leaders at the 47th ASEAN Summit, namely, number one, the ASEAN Declaration on the Right to a Safe, Clean, Healthy, and Sustainable Environment. And number two, the ASEAN Declaration on Promoting the right to development, and the right to peace towards realizing inclusive and sustainable development. These declarations represent an important milestone for the region. They reaffirm that human rights, environmental protection, sustainable development, and peace are deeply interconnected. The challenges that we face today, climate change, environmental degradation, inequality, conflict, and instability are complex. They demand collective and coordinated responses. ASEAN's adoption of these declarations reflects the region's readiness to take on that responsibility and to exert itself as a global partner in advancing human rights and sustainability. Malaysia played a central role in shaping these outcomes. I would like to commend His Excellency Edmund Bon Taisun, Malaysia's representative to the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights, I-Chair, and current chair, for successfully leading the drafting and negotiations for both declarations. His work, together with the support of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and ASEAN member states, reflects Malaysia's continued leadership and commitment to strengthening the regional human rights architecture. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me to give a big applause to His Excellency. As Malaysia's National Human Rights Institution, SUHAKAM views these declarations as a timely and necessary step forward. They provide regional guidance that is in line with global human rights norms, and they serve as important reference points as we address national issues relating to environmental rights, inclusivity in development, and the promotion of peace. It is also worth noting that the environmental issues is a cross-border human rights issues, which require coordinated efforts by ASEAN member states and relevant stakeholders. Our role at SUHAKAM is to help bridge regional human rights commitments with national implementation. We work closely with I-Chair, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, government agencies, and civil rights and civil society to promote awareness, foster dialogue, and build capacity on ASEAN human rights instruments. This briefing is part of that effort. It allows us to provide clarity on the content and implications of the declarations, and to create space for media and diplomatic partners to engage in informed discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, the right to a safe, clean, healthy, and sustainable environment is no longer an abstract concept. Today's platform also provides an important opportunity for Malaysia to translate our regional commitments into concrete national action. In line with the ASEAN Declaration on Environmental Rights, Suhakam reiterates its earlier recommendation for the adoption of a climate change bill, a climate change bill, a law by itself that incorporates the core principles articulated in the declaration. At the same time, the forthcoming National Action Plan on Business and Human Rights presents another avenue to strengthen environmental governance, including through enhanced enforcement and clearer accountability standards. These steps are essential to ensure that our commitments do not remain mere aspirational, but are implemented meaningfully for the benefit of all. It is a live reality for communities across Malaysia and the region who face increasing floods, heat waves, pollution, and biodiversity loss. Recognizing this right at the regional level is an important step, but it must be matched by stronger national action, improved governance, and meaningful participation of the affected communities. Likewise, the right to development and the right to peace are essential foundation for a stable and prosperous ASEAN community. Sustainable development must be inclusive, leaving no one behind. Peace must be nurtured and protected. These are rights that cut across sectors. And require collaboration between government, civil society, the private sector, and the public. Through today's briefing, I hope we can deepen our understanding of these commitments and identify opportunities for collaborative follow-up. The media and diplomatic community play a vital role in shaping public understanding, policy direction, and regional cooperation. Your engagement is key to ensuring that these commitments translate into real progress on the ground. There has to be genuine commitments on the part of governments. There has to be sincerity. The environmental laws have to be strictly enforced. Otherwise, the ASEAN Declaration will be nothing but mere self-glorification. In closing, I would like to express Suhakam's full support for the progress achieved at the ASEAN level and reaffirm our commitment to working with all stakeholders to advance the right of every person in Malaysia and across the region. As Suhakam assumed the chair of the Southeast Asia National Human Rights Institutions Forum CNF later today, we will also utilize the CNF platform to further discuss both declarations and to strengthen the role of national human rights institutions in supporting the development of the ASEAN Action Plan and in monitoring its implementation. Thank you once again for being here. I wish you a productive session ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sri, for the insightful remarks. Next, it is my great pleasure to invite His Excellency Edmund Bon Tai Soon, Chair of the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commissions of Human Rights, ICHA, and representative of Malaysia, to deliver the opening remarks. Your Excellency, please.
Thank you very much. Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera. Datuk Sri Hishamuddin, Chairman of Suhakam. Thank you very much for your kind words. Suhakam has been very instrumental in supporting Malaysia and ASEAN and my office in working on our deliverables this year, and I thank you. We have delivered and worked with Suhakam over 10 events, 10 key ASEAN events this program, and it couldn't have been done without Suhakam's support as well as teamwork. And thank you to your team as well. And you, Datuk Sri, continue to be an inspiration for all of us, not only when you were at the bench before, but also now as chairing Suhakam. I also want to acknowledge the presence of other Suhakam commissioners here, Tuan Dahim Anak Nadot, Dr. Zulfa Yadi Brandon Abdullah, Datuk Teh Lee, and Puan Melissa Ake. And congratulations also on your appointment, and we look forward to working closely together with Suhakam. I just wanted to share, I think, first of all, our thanks to all the media for the support that the media has given. I know there's media here and online, and a lot of times the fourth estate, the media is forgotten or neglected, but I wanted to put on record that from our office at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and my office as a representative of Malaysia to AICHA, I really want to thank the media. Terima kasih kepada kawan-kawan media yang telah meliputi secara meluas program-program kami dan juga inisiatif-inisiatif Malaysia dan outcome dokumen daripada kedua-dua sidang kemuncak 46 dan 47, and kami mengalu-alukan support daripada media. So we thank the media for supporting us and Malaysia and covering the 46th and 47 ASEAN Summit that was held in Malaysia, and also reporting very accurately and very comprehensively on the work that Malaysia has done this year as chair of ASEAN as we close the chairship. We have at the last summit, if you notice, have delivered 84 outcome documents, and 2 of the outcome documents are the 2 documents that we want to discuss and today, and what Datuk Sri has mentioned. We also really want to thank the office of Suhakam at the working level. We couldn't have done a lot of this without you. I just wanted to welcome all of you to this media and diplomatic briefing. I think it's an opportunity for us to share the 2 major documents, our deliverables as the ASEAN chair, and at the Commission, AICHA, and ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights, as well as we to entertain questions and answers, and also to go on record for questions regarding our deliverables on human rights. We started this this journey in 2025 when we were appointed chair of the Commission and chair of ASEAN, and we had, in a sense, promised a few things. Among others was these two declarations, one on environment that was continuing to be negotiated for almost 3 years. And the second was our flagship declaration of inclusivity and sustainability. And that's why you see the second declaration focusing on the right to development, right to peace, towards realizing inclusive and sustainable development. Three of these rights, right to safe, clean, healthy, sustainable environment, and right to development, right to peace, ASEAN's add value to the international human rights framework. So if you look at the Universal Declaration on Human Rights in 1948, it does not mention the right to a clean, safe, healthy environment. It does not mention the right to peace, and it does not mention right to peace specifically as a standalone right, and it does not mention the right to development as a specific standalone right. For us at ASEAN and Malaysia especially, we are part of the Global South, and you can see that a lot of the negotiations that are happening in COP, a lot of negotiations that are happening around the world regarding the climate, regarding loss and damage funds, regarding the financial support that the Global South needs to ensure that we can continue to mitigate and adapt, as well as to deal with the challenges of climate change, are going to be really front and center of our Global South agenda, and these two declarations will support our advocacy for that. I just wanted to place it there in my welcome remarks before I go into my presentation. I think there are one segment after this, and I just wanted to echo my Datuk Sri, the chair of SOACAM, to welcoming you and hoping that this will be very beneficial briefing for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellencies, for those comprehensive and strategic remarks. So everyone, we will now proceed with a 30-minute media briefings focusing on two ASEAN declarations. First is the right to a safe, clean, healthy, and sustainable environment, and the right to development and the right to peace towards realizing inclusive and sustainable development. So these sessions will provide an overview of the declaration's objective, the implications for Malaysia, and broader ASEAN human rights architecture. So these sessions will be led by our excellencies. So, Mr. Edmund, the floor is yours, and the slide will be displayed right where the television's there.
Take a picture.
Take picture.
Oh, you want to take picture? Oh, okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we go with the sessions, actually, we will now invite for a brief photo opportunity in conjunction with the presentations of AICHA annual reports and also the AICHA 5-year work plan. So may I respectfully invite Yang Berbahagia, Chairman of SOHACAM, along with the SOHACAM commissioners and our excellencies, Mr. Edmund, to take a brief pictures, and then together later we'll be joined by all the audience. So at first, can we have the sessions with the commissioners first? Take place. So, just. Yes. Okay. And we have a second photo, so may I invite all the excellencies and our commissioners to face out here at the front, and also the audience, please at the back, please stand up so that you can be inside the pictures. Okay, so yeah. So you're facing here. Yeah, facing. Yeah, can I invite all the audience to stand up so to join with our. All right, thank you everyone. So we are also pleased to inform you that copies of the ICHA annual reports and of the ICHA 5-year work plan are available for collections outside of the registrations area. So please feel free to obtain your copies later. All right. We share the slide. Yeah, I can use the pointer. Okay, give me this. Yeah, this is nice. I mean, this. Sometimes a bit. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, I said that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Since we've got the official program underway, let's just go into the meat of the matter. Just for the briefing, this was our last meeting in Malacca, the historic city of Malacca. We finished off recently in Malacca, and that is the list of commissioners. This is the first meeting where we had Timor-Leste as the first full member of ASEAN and of AICHA, and we welcome very warmly Timor-Leste to the ASEAN family. So we no longer have 10 members, we have 11 members, and sometimes we also forget sometimes to mention Timor-Leste, but we have to now make sure that we include Timor-Leste in every of our events and every of our program and every of our invitations. So I just will quickly do some deliverables and then focus on the declaration just to wrap up the year. What we have done, you will see, is the annual report of 2025. I think for many of you who do not know the work of the AICHA, we have an annual report every year. And I think this annual report took us quite some time because we were discussing, deliberating how detailed we want to be. And for analysts, for academics, and for those people who observe ASEAN a lot, they talk about the commission in terms of our promotion and protection work. Of course, there is encouragement. There's also critique about our work. And during this chairship, we have been very open about our positives and our negatives and our weaknesses. So for those who would like a bit more detail as to how we have deliberated on the future forward for the next 20 years, please look at our annual report. It's a very robust, constructive, very open reflection on what we have seen of the commission since 2009. We have reviewed our work for more than 14 years, and we have come up with this report, which I would commend to all of you, and it's publicly available on the website. We have also come up with a 5-year work plan, which I keep saying is not a 5-year work plan, but I will confidently say it's a 20-year work plan. We have our vision for 2045, but if you look at the type of work that we have now agreed to for the next 5 years, we have things from emerging challenges of the AI, or robotics, of climate change, of youth, and even looking at an annual human rights report, annual human rights journal, looking at deepening how we can do our protection work. So again, that's available online with a 5-year work plan as our second deliverable that we had to do. We also concluded ICHA priority programs for 2026, and I'm very happy and I want to thank all our dialogue partners. A lot of you are here from your countries. We have had dialogues, we have interfaces with a lot of your countries from your missions in Jakarta, and a lot of them have worked with us and supported us in our programming. So for all of you who are here from diplomatic missions and embassies, please note our priority programs for 2026. You will see that there are a lot of mutual interests that we would like to work with you on, and both in terms of collaboration, technical support, and cooperation. So it's there. We plan our programs 1 year in advance because we will advance it to the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting, and then it gets endorsed, and then we are already moving ahead with 2026. So if any of you would like to work with us, please drop us an email, and I will connect you with the right persons. We have a lot of very interesting programs next year, including experiential workshops on how we can deal with human rights in the new digital age. We have also adopted, endorsed, and published the ASEAN guideline on the implementation of the non-punishment principle for the protection of victims of trafficking in persons. So the non-punishment principle is very important because it provides for a screening process, and it ensures that, for example, victims and survivors of online scams or forced labor in other countries are not punished and not penalized as offenders because they are victims. We have taken very strict principles on those guidelines, and we are seeking to advance it 2026. We are working with the anti-trafficking body, the ASEAN SOMTC, the law enforcement at ASEAN level. We have adopted our operational guidelines on external communications. So now there's a complaint mechanism. And again, a lot of ASEAN academics and observers mentioned that ICHA has no communication mechanism. Well, the answer is that this year we have formalized it. So for complaints and communications, we continue to receive a lot of complaints and communications, but we have now formalized our procedures, and we can now receive them through our email, aicha@asean, AICHR@asean.org. We deal with the communications in different ways. And for example, today we are having an interface with the Southeast Asian National Human Rights Institutions, and we will be sharing some of these cases with them to discuss cooperation. We have delivered our note on responsible business and migration in ASEAN, and you will hear a lot more about it. We have done a lot of work on business and human rights, migration, corridors, and issues of forced labor, whether it's forced migration, whether it's voluntary migration. These are issues that have been discussed, and we adopted it in Malacca. We will have other thematic issues that are coming up. Malaysia's priorities is to ensure that we maintain regional peace consistent with the ASEAN Charter, consistent with democracy, rule of law, and human rights. So Malaysia led 6 Pathway to Peace workshops this whole year in Jakarta, in Kuala Lumpur. And these workshops are, for the first time, workshops that have been discussing very difficult, complex, and challenging issues in the region. Issues of Myanmar, issues of Mindanao, Marawi, issues of Southern Thailand, issues of, you name it, Papua. We have had these workshops in a very constructive, robust, open way. For the first time, Malaysia has led this, also because to support our ASEAN Chair Envoy's work at Myanmar. By the way, we share the same office in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in the sense that we come from the same department. And this whole year, we have had consultations, very close working relationship with Tan Sri Othman, who's also a former SOACAM chair. He's done tremendous work on Myanmar. And at our level, at a parallel level, we have taken it on working level to deal with a lot of the nitty-gritty of the pathways to peace. Unfortunately, Cambodia and Thailand issue came up, and also during the pathways workshop, we had discussions on how we can work. We thought it was dealing with issues of intrastate, but then with Cambodia and Thailand, it started to expand to an interstate discussion. We are going to continue to do that in 2026, looking for some sort of a landing as to an ASEAN pathway or framework to peace. We continue to have a lot of discussions on challenges in the region through our recent developments agenda in ASEAN, and then we will issue press releases where appropriate and necessary. So, for example, on Myanmar, on the earthquake, we released a press release. On online scamming, we also have released press releases, among others. And I think the most recent one is the commemoration event. So the ASEAN Human Rights Declaration was signed on the 18th of November 2012 in Phnom Penh, Cambodia, and we have issued a statement. And you can look at the statement, how it deepens already our commitment to a right to safe, clean, healthy, sustainable environment, which includes safe climate, healthy ecosystems, non-toxic environment, water sanitation. So I think we go to the two key instruments that we actually promised in the beginning of our chairship, the ASEAN Declaration on the right to a safe, clean, healthy, sustainable environment, and the ASEAN Declaration on promoting the right to development and right to peace towards realizing inclusive, sustainable development. We have had a lot of engagements with ASEAN dialogue partners, and we had the 6th ASEAN EU Policy Dialogue, which was a very, very refreshing dialogue on trade, on business and human rights, and on issues of the climate. We had many interface meetings. I just wanted to mention the first interface meetings with Korea, New Zealand, and Norway. And we are continuing to have our other interfaces with dialogue partners that we have had with ongoing. And we continue to receive many requests to have those engagements. Okay, so the two declarations, the other, the ASEAN Declaration on Right to Safe, Clean, Healthy, Sustainable Environment. We already had the term safe environment in our ASEAN Human Rights Declaration since 2012. The word safe is heavily contested around the world in international human rights arena, and there are countries that still are not comfortable with the word safe. But in the ASEAN Human Rights Declaration, we have already adopted the word safe since 2012. So let me just highlight the declaration. The declaration aligns ourselves with all the international norms. That's very important. Point number one, we do not go lower than international norms. So if you read a critique out there about the declaration, you please note and look at the text that we reaffirm our global instruments on international standards. Note that the UN General Assembly resolution and the United Nations Human Rights Council resolution doesn't go very much further than just 4 paragraphs. So when we talk about an international standard, we are talking about a standard. People keep talking about the UN standard, the UN resolution standard, the GA standard, the HRC standard, now supplemented by the ICJ advisory opinion. But if you look at that standard is very broad, 4 paragraphs. We have gone further than that, nothing lower. That's really, really point number one. So when we had a lot of observations that the ASEAN Human Rights Declaration was lower than international human rights standard, which it can be debated, we have made sure that this declaration, again, does not go below that standard. So we have reaffirmed all these international instruments. We have aligned it in terms of we have aligned it in terms of, and the second paragraph is very important. We have aligned it in terms of multilateral environmental agreements, and that will include the Paris Agreement, that will include our CBD agreements, that will include all the agreements that our countries have signed up to, whether here in ASEAN or outside ASEAN. We have linked it also to the environmental threats on human rights, dealing with the triple planetary crisis, referring to the interlinkages between the environment, peace and security, and sustainable development. So you have a full package. The ASEAN Human Rights Declaration on Environment is not a declaration that just deals with the environment, but deals with sustainable development, peace, security, and interlinkages to meet those challenges. We also have, and this was very contested, we also have acknowledged to ensure that what we do will meet the pressing threats to our present and future generations. So intergenerational equity is a principle that we have adopted. We have also looked at the linkages with poverty as well as other issues on collaboration. Importantly, at the Commission, we focus, and just like Suhakam, we focus a lot on vulnerable and marginalized groups. So we have noted that there are a lot of threats and multiple vulnerabilities of specific groups, children and youth, older persons, persons with disabilities, ethnic groups, indigenous and local communities. And it is not exhaustive in the declaration. It's a framework that provides for pathways to operationalize greater protection for vulnerable populations. We have emphasized the importance of collective action, and this is where I think we also would keenly invite our dialogue partners outside ASEAN to work with us towards implementing this declaration, and we are very glad to see such a big diplomatic corps here today interested in our progress. We here we talk about international assistance and cooperation. We talk about regional and international assistance and cooperation, and we talk about cross-sectoral and cross-pillar cooperation. So what was very important about this environment that we wanted to make sure is that I keep saying, although it's a bit crude, we were matchmakers. We try and marry the human rights world and human rights experts with the environmental world in ASEAN and environmental experts into one. And this really, it's an achievement that we couldn't imagine could have happened, but with the cooperation of the ASEAN environmental sector, the ASEAN senior officials on environment who continue to negotiate for us at COP and other environmental fora, we could have done it. So those are some of the substantive issues. I wanted to now deal with the procedural rights. I'm sure you have heard of the AHAS Convention, the ASEAN Convention on Environmental Procedural Rights. So we have now embodied all of them in the declaration. So we had a lot of contestation about this, but we have now embodied this. And now the question is, how do we operationalize it? We recognize a safe and enabling environment for the exercise of the right to a safe, clean, healthy, sustainable environment. Very, very broad. We talk about freedom of expression. We talk about opinion. We talk about information. That includes it. And importantly, we acknowledge that there are threats to people who work to promote and protect human rights. In layperson's term, some people will call it human rights defenders, environmental human rights defenders, but that language specifically, because we have no definition in ASEAN yet, we have used the term and we have agreed to the term people who work to promote and protect human rights. So again, I want to address observations that while there is no language specifically on human rights defenders, there is language for people who self-identify themselves as people who work to promote and protect human rights. And to us, that would be my reply, that we deal with human rights defenders, we deal with environmental human rights defenders, because we're talking about safe and enabling environment, particularly for them, among others. We have meaningful public participation as a core tenet. We have access to information as a core principle, and we also have risk assessment tools. Whatever you want to call it, some people call it due diligence. Here, again, we don't have a common definition as yet, and we still have those discussions ongoing with a lot of different countries. But risk assessment tools, including EIA, including language in the declaration that talks about ceasing, preventing, mitigating, reducing negative impacts to environmental harms. It's there. So that amounts to due diligence, although we don't use the word due diligence. Risk assessment to us is sufficient because there is those elaborative language to ensure that environmental threats are reduced, ceased, prevented, and mitigated, among others. And we have access to justice. And access to justice is very, very wide. A lot of you here are lawyers, a lot of former judges. You know, access to justice would include access to remedies. So some key pillars that we have shown here, I've just reproduced, my team has just reproduced some of the language there. And it, as I mentioned, deals with equal and effective protection against discrimination, safe and enabling environment, and acknowledging the need for sufficient and effective protection for people who work to promote and protect human rights. Meaningful public participation is there as well, acknowledging the importance of engaging all stakeholders and people in vulnerable situations. And I think that's important. It's not really highlighted at the bottom, but including the importance of traditional knowledge, techniques, and technologies in sustaining climate resiliency of communities. And that provides a lot of pathways. AICHA this year had started and embarked on a workshop to look at indigenous and traditional knowledge on how we can combat climate change. And that supports that kind of initiatives. Again, access to information is there. So we have in Malaysia discussions as to a new Freedom of Information Act. And at this juncture, I keep remembering Datuk Sri Hishamuddin case. He had decided very much early on, I think one of the earliest, in fact, the first, I think, on access to information for people to know why they were paying their water bills and how they were calculated. And so access to information still eludes a lot, still is not present in terms of law in Malaysia or in a lot of ASEAN member states, but we are working towards it and we have acknowledged that. Risk assessment, again, I mentioned EIA, issues of prevention, issues of control, reduction, mitigation, and addressing the degradation of the natural environment. Dealing with non-state actors. And this is very interesting. You have an ASEAN declaration that brings in non-state actors, businesses on human rights, and that again becomes a pathway for a lot of our work that we've been doing with businesses, state-owned enterprises, GLCs on business and human rights and the environment. And we have now acknowledged it. We have now been provided mandate to actually work with non-state actors and businesses as well as the private sector. Access to justice, again, is there. Access to justice for me is a broad range of issues. So, for example, if the issue of free, prior, informed consent for indigenous people is one of the requirements for remedies to be given, then that comes under that rubric. So if we look at the plan of action on access to justice, it's very wide. It includes accountability measures, it includes grievance mechanisms, and it includes remedies. Why this declaration matters? We are advancing ASEAN human rights framework. We are expanding 28F of the ASEAN Human Rights Declaration. And really, this is the first ASEAN instrument to adopt a human rights-based approach on environment and deepening the consensus that we have on the right. We also mandate AICHA to continue pushing to implement the human rights framework on this right. Bear in mind, the last declaration was 2012. In 2025, under our chairship, after 13 years, we have adopted 2 declarations in 1 year after 13 years. So as chair and Malaysia as chair, I think this is the best we could do. We have tried to push as much as we can at the commission. And now I'm explaining how we can push further together. We have aligned with international standards. We have gone further than the human rights resolutions. We use the word safe. I started really by emphasizing, and especially for the media, just to give a very lay person's understanding, around the world, the word safe is heavily contested. People keep saying, or some countries say, I do not know what you mean by a safe climate. For me, a safe climate means if we walk out of SWACAM's building today, we don't want something suddenly falling on us from the sky, hitting our head. that's a safe climate. The state, non-state actors must provide for a safe climate. But until today, international consensus has not agreed on a safe climate, but we have got that language at an ASEAN document. It's now for us to explain what that means. Arguably, in my view, the declaration, well, of course, I'm conflicted, but in my view, arguably, the declaration is more comprehensive than some of the other declarations that are focusing on certain rights only, although they may be a bit detailed, and some other regions may not have such a declaration as wide as we have. I think this is very important for a lot of countries in the global south, and I keep saying this to my colleagues at the ASEAN member states, and I went through the whole COP30 statement that our ASEAN member states had signed up to. I think we have not been using human rights and environmental rights in our advocacy at the multilateral fora, at the UN. We, as developing nations, continue to seek for greater support, but we don't say, hey, we are not the ones actually polluting as much as others, but yet we are the ones that are disproportionately affected. And with this declaration, I think it gives a very firm foothold for civil society, for NHRIs to say, hey, what does this declaration mean for us when we start our negotiations or when we continue our advocacy at COP? And because at COP and other multilateral fora, because I think a lot of ASEAN member states as well may not fully understand what a right to a safe, clean, healthy, sustainable environment means, and then they stay away from it. But from this declaration on, I think we can use that as a trampoline or a baseline to start talking about it in a more concerted way. So moving forward, we have very specific provisions that ASEAN tasks the ICHA to develop a plan of action and to assure continuous resources and support. And we invite all stakeholders, including international, regional levels, to support the implementation of this. And I would, if there's only one take back from this, I encourage and invite all of you at the diplomatic corps to consider working with us on this. This was our final chairman's statement at the summit. Paragraph 30, we said we look forward to the development of an inclusive and sustainable plan of action to follow up on this declaration. So ICHA now will be following out on declaration with a regional plan of action. The declaration, and I think the last, at our Malacca meeting when we had the commemoration statement, is a bit small, but we had acknowledged substantive elements. I think it's a bit small in yellow. We have acknowledged substantive elements of the right, including safe climate and a few other things there. I think I can't see it, but it's all on the website. The second declaration is on right to development, right to peace. So just very quickly, I think what's very important about this declaration is that it again deepens our understanding of what right to development means in the ASEAN Human Rights Declaration. Since 2012, the ASEAN Human Rights Declaration has the right to development that says that it's both a collective right and both a collective right and an individual right. All ASEAN peoples now are entitled to demand that they be allowed to participate, contribute to, and benefit equitably and sustainability from all developments. So it's not just development on the economic scale. We're talking about cultural development, we're talking about political development, and we're talking about social development. And here, I think with right to development as a collective right, in solidarity, we are looking at all the different rights, civil and political rights, economic, social, cultural rights, solidarity rights, coming together as one in an integrated fashion. It diminishes a few other arguments about how some rights take preference over the other. So in terms of development, we need to have all them together. But what is important is that we also have the right to enjoy peace. So in the ASEAN Human Rights Declaration, we have this very contested right to enjoy peace. And in our thematic study, we have this debate whether it's a right to peace or right to enjoy peace, and whether even a right to peace, or whether it's right to peace or right to enjoy peace, you can actually enforce it. But we have acknowledged that we need to delve on this further, and we have used this as an advocacy tool at the Commission. We have looked at how this declaration, or what this declaration will do, is to say, hey, let's come together as ASEAN, let's look at development and peace together. And what I mentioned just now, we had 6 workshops, which included a lot of these discussions. We had included issues of non-discrimination and inclusivity, active, free, and meaningful participation. We also had operationalization matters in the declaration, proactive moves and maneuvers to eliminate barriers, eliminate discrimination. We have responsible business conduct. Again, this declaration deals with businesses, non-state actors, allows us to work with non-state actors on BHRE issues. We have, of course, the language on dialogue, cooperation, prevention, and institutional mechanism. So that really, in a nutshell, is the declaration. But I think there are a few things that I wanted to mention. The declaration, and this was Surya Deva's the Special Rapporteur Right to Development's framework when he came here at our second consultation. It's a human right. It has 2 dimensions, individual and collective right. It has 3 elements: participate, contribute to, and enjoy. The ASEAN one includes benefit equitably and sustainably. If you look at the UN declaration, does not have that language. So he says it's 3, but actually for us at ASEAN, we have 4. And I think importantly for me is the 4 facets. We bring economic, social, cultural, and political development together in an integrated fashion. So there's no one that goes before the other. And there are the usual principles, self-determination. Intersectionality allows us to deal with multiple vulnerabilities. Intergenerational equity, again, the declaration talks about future generations. And then we talk about fair distribution of wealth, because if you're just focusing on economic growth and not human development, then you have wealth concentrated right at the top. And then we have international cooperation. So in those terms, we have now embedded it in our declaration. We see right to development, right to peace clearly as a standalone right, both as a collective and an individual right. But then what we have done then is to connect both. So you have a connection of both the development rights and the right to peace. And that strengthens our advocacy and strengthens our human rights declaration. So that's just the details of of the OP, OP2, preamble and OP. Yeah. We look at the, sorry. We talk about ensuring that we are inclusive and sustainable. This is our theme this year. Inclusive and sustainable means we hear everyone. We don't want to leave anyone behind. And sustainable, of course, we want to make sure all our practices, including our business practices, are sustainable in terms of for our future generation and for the environment. I think as I keep saying, what is important is that whenever we talk about development, people just focus on economic development. Here, when we look at the declaration, we are not saying one is more important than the other. What we are saying is that when we talk about right to development, it must be development on all fronts. And you cannot have development on all fronts without full concentration and full exercise of your civil and political rights and economic social rights together. And I think we are trying to say we need to have a more holistic understanding of development. We have operationalization measures. We have language to talk about adopting not only proactive measures, but also to eliminate obstacles to inclusive and sustainable development. And right at the end, to eliminate all forms of discrimination and inequalities. For myself personally, the ICHA has been working with the businesses and non-state actors for a long time now. We have had so many programs. And I think what was very important for us is this operative paragraph that allows us to say, hey, let's work together with businesses, non-state actors on improving the state of human rights in our region. So states are not the only duty bearers. We have non-state actors as well as duty bearers. The core elements, participation, contribution, enjoyment are there. We repeat and we talk about the people of ASEAN, both not only in terms of being beneficiaries, but also passive beneficiaries, but also active agents in the development of their own lives and of our own agenda. We have so that paragraph was on the environment. This paragraph is the one on the declaration on the development one. So you look at it, this is the chairman's statement at the ASEAN Summit. Our chair issued this statement, and we look at the last paragraph to follow up actions to realize the declaration. And I'm sure a lot of our dialogue partners and countries outside ASEAN would be interested to work on this as well in mutual collaboration. So yeah, I think that's it from me. And before I sit down, are there you know about Q&A now, or you take Q&A? Okay. So thank you very much.
So thank you, Mr. Edmund, for the informative presentations. Actually, now we will open the floor for a 30-minute dialogues and Q&A sessions. So members of the media, diplomatic missions, and CSOs are invited to share questions or comments. So can you raise your hand? We will bring the microphone to you, or actually you can just stand at the microphone that we provided in the middle of the room. Thank you. And also please introduce yourself and so state your questions. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Aidil Iman. I'm from WWF Malaysia. So I'm just wondering about the right to safe, clean, healthy, and sustainable environment. So how will this declaration or adoption align with particularly Malaysia's national agenda, for example, with higher policies like the 13 Malaysia Plan that aims to explore REE mining, right? And a lot of our REE, rare earth elements, are located in key biodiversity areas, protected areas, primary forest reserves, and so on. So how can this declaration contest or campaign against these kind of national initiatives that looks into mining, because there's no such thing as sustainable mining, only responsible mining. So how can this adoption of this human right to a clean, healthy, safe, sustainable environment align itself with Malaysia's huge agenda, especially with our trade deal with the US in pertaining to rare earth elements extraction? Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yes, I just wanted to, I'm looking at my phone because that question just came up, so I already have an answer. I just came back from Jakarta, and it's not a complete answer, but I think a lot of people don't know that we have the ASEAN, let me just pull this out. On the website, if you look at the ASEAN website, and I think sometimes, I cannot blame people and civil society because there's so many documents. The 9th ASEAN Ministerial Meeting on Minerals, 9AMMIN, 21st to 24th November 2023, Phnom Penh, Cambodia. In the media statement, and after having some discussions internally with the relevant ministries, the ministers for minerals had adopted what is now called the ASEAN Principles on Sustainable Minerals Development. There are at least 10 principles there. And while there are other principles which may not be directly relevant to human rights, there is one principle on human rights and social performance. There's one principle on environmental performance. There's one principle on responsible production. And just for the benefit of this meeting, respect human rights and take into account the interests, cultures, customs, and values of communities affected by mineral activities and related government decisions, and seek to have minerals development, making lasting contributions to inclusive and diverse socio-economic development. So number one, I think we are looking forward to how the principles are going to be operationalized in ASEAN. There have been continual discussions on that principle. The principle may not yet, I think, have been made public, but internally we understand that these principles would relate to what you have mentioned. So the question is very good, because number two, my response would be to look at the declaration, and the declaration obviously already has a lot of links to the issues that I've just mentioned about human rights and about impact to communities. How do we then become part of that conversation with the ministers on minerals, or the working groups, or the senior officials on minerals? How do we get them to operationalize these commitments that we have made on the declaration? So a lot of these questions are what maybe some people call at a working level. So at this point in time, I said the answer is partial. We have still not finished or even really started consultations on our plan of action to operationalize the declaration. But your question has been asked a few times, and I think it's very, very important to keep flagging it. It's very important to keep ensuring that the advocacy for responsible mineral production is going to be operationalized in a way that's fair. That's fair, and it's consistent with human rights. So I hope WWF can provide the technical assistance and expertise. A lot of us are human rights people at the Commission. I can honestly put up my hand and say a lot of the environmental technicalities escape me, and we have had needed a lot of support. My team was supporting me on a lot of these technicalities, including working with our ministry, NRES. At that time, the minister was YB Nick Nazmi. He was very supportive of this declaration, and he had provided a lot of government support in terms of the expertise for us to try and negotiate this declaration and bring it over the line this year. So please hold that thought. I hope WWF, can host consultations and invite IHR representatives. Thailand is the one that's going to lead on the plan of action, and we will definitely want to bring that feedback to them.
Thank you. Czech Ambassador, thank you very much for presentation. Really impressive. And it's quite clear that there is a lot of work, a lot of study, a lot of deliberation by the both of texts. I'd like to ask you, which of the declaration was more difficult to negotiate? Was it the one about the peace? Was it the first one about the development, let's say? And the second question, you mentioned several times Global South in presentation. My question is, if you plan to use all efforts put in these two declarations to get some ideas, because some of them, as I understood properly, go beyond, let's say, text adopted in the UN. If you have some plan to get further with these ideas, be it in G77 or even in the whole UN. Thank you.
Sorry, Excellency, where are you from? Oh, yeah, Czech ambassador. Thank you, Excellency. Two questions. One, I think it's comparing apple and oranges a little bit, because to be fair, the environmental declaration actually started. The environmental work at the Commission started in 2014, led by Myanmar, the Myanmar representative Nguyen Xuey. He was a firm advocate of environmental rights. And then the representatives changed. We were all part of it. There were discussions on EIA. And then when Thailand representative Ajahn Amara Pongsapich, who used to be a Thai human rights commissioner as well, in 2022, she kick-started this framework discussions. So what we had was we inherited a working draft. And we found that the Environmental Rights Declaration, a lot of the countries or some of the countries wanted a more binding treaty. Some of the other countries and ASEAN member states says, let's be less ambitious because we still don't have uniformity of laws, and we're quite different from the EU. The EU is a supranational body. ASEAN is only an association, and sometimes people get that confusion. So we work through cooperation. We don't have harmonization, but we have cooperation. So when we took over a text that was concluded as best as it could as of July 2024. So for 6 months, me and my team had our internal consultations with briefings with different environmental departments across ASEAN member states to prepare for our chairship. And we had then come up with a chair's draft. So if you ask me, that process was a bit more difficult because we were working with some sort of a template in the sense that negotiations had already started since 2022. For the Declaration on Peace and Development, it was slightly easier because we were chair this year and I had introduced the first draft. But I think the issues of the peace and development one for Malaysia, we wanted it to be our flagship declaration. So we didn't want it to become too prescriptive. We didn't want it to be too forceful. What we wanted was just some common approach in very broad ways so that we could conclude it by November. So we start in February, we concluded by November, and therefore I would of course say we can have put in more things, but I think under the conditions of having a declaration that we have only about 8-9 months to negotiate, this was the best. I think your second question is very important. And the second question for me, you know, we have a lot of different people saying, oh, you know, the UN standard is this, the UN standard is that, the global standard, the European standard is this, the Latin American standards, African standard is this, right? And for all the longest time, ASEAN could not say what our standard is on the issue, right? So that's why we said, no, we need to have at least some ASEAN framework. And I think this is the first step. How we want to take it further, of course, we have this document, how we want to use it. And I said that we are at the Human Rights Commission, but I have no control over the environmental governance sustainability sector. What we really need to do and what I need to do is to get our environmental people on board and say, hey, how do we push this further? So I think what your question is not only a question, but I think it's a reminder that we have to use the document. To me, you never have a perfect document, but what we have done and what I've ensured, what Malaysia has ensured is that we don't go below the standards, and we have not gone below the global standards. Yeah, thank you.
Good morning, and I'm Q Jaya from the Malaysian Bar Environment and Climate Change Committee. I'm also with the Cerah Coalition, which brought the transboundary haze pollution petition to Suhakam. Congratulations again on this monumental declarations, and thanks for having this media briefing. I think it's very useful. I've a question regarding now that we have really make a significant step in terms of enhancing the recognition of substantive environmental rights and also procedural rights. How will the efforts of stepping up the capacity ability of ICHR in receiving and then dealing with direct complaints for especially transboundary environmental harms? And I'm thinking about climate change issues, and I'm thinking about like transboundary haze pollution, but also as with the ICJ advisory opinions, consequences, the legal consequences, any form of transboundary harm, any And I'm thinking about transnational corporations, and we are seeing a proliferation of ASEAN companies that are growing and maturing, and of course, spreading their activities, their operations across the region. The impetus for ICHR to step up to this role and to handle complaints that are of that nature. I understand that ICHR has already been focusing on that, and I'd like to hear, can you unpack a little bit, explain a little bit more on that? Thank you.
Thank you, Jayal. So I answer in two ways. Number one, in terms of operationalizing the challenges and the cases, I think what I personally have been suggesting on the plan of action is really to provide some sort of a repository, data-driven collection of issues and cases, so that we can use that repository of cases to inform the plan of action. And then with the plan of action to say, hey, how can we make recommendations on this declaration on those cases? So that really should be part of one of the action steps that we want to take on the RPA. But I think number two, the existing mechanism we have at the Commission, and we have started this quite strongly this year, is that we continue to receive a lot of complaints. We have received since 2010 more than 150 complaints over a range of issues, including transboundary issues. Today, I was just mentioning with one of the commissioners, Datuk Marati, she was in Jakarta, and we had the dialogue, ASEAN dialogue. We are having an interface with CNF today. As an example, Malaysia is going to raise the Bajau Laut issue. The Bajau Laut issue, where we have received a complaint or two complaints about how there is poor living conditions, poor health conditions, apart from the statelessness issue. And we have reached out to SOHAKAM, we've reached out to the Philippines Commission on Human Rights, and we've reached out to the Indonesian Komnas HAM, as well as reaching out to our own governments, our ministries and Sabah. But it needs to be a collective approach that can be taken by all three representatives at the Commission, which they all agree is just how and what, and whether we have the capacity. So this is an example of how we can move this. So your question is very valid. Transboundary, we need the case. You send us the case, but we also need the support, because it's just not me. And I cannot just direct our Ministry of Health and say, please go down and provide vaccination. There are a lot of the other steps. However, what we have started to explore is that if there are dialogue partners, then say, hey, I have this project, I have a bit of funding, and I'm going to send mobile boats just to do medical checks for them. We'd be happy to do that. We'd be happy to facilitate that and provide that kind of safe passage dealing with the government. So we can convene, we can open doors. But in terms of implementation, truth to be told, at the Commission, it's just me and my team from the office. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs allows us a lot of access to public resources, and they will help us with the government agencies, and they've been extremely good because we are an independent office. But we need that kind of capacity. So going back to the declaration, for example, even the plan of action, we have 100 action lines, we cannot implement it, in the sense that we need both government agencies from member states to come and help us and work with us, but also we need capacity. To do a program these days in a hotel, even in a 3-star budget hotel, it still takes money, and we don't have those funds, I will say. So we have really relied throughout our journey on the dialogue partners, and I can thank UNSCAP, UNEP, the Swedish, the Europeans, the Danish Institute of Human Rights, and I can give you a whole Australians. I don't want to miss anybody out, but in that space for the Commission, really we rely quite a lot on external dialogue support for that. And if that cannot happen, then we just need to keep going back to beg our own governments to help us to implement it. So I think the next phase for the Commission is perhaps having greater sustainability and funding, but that's a discussion for another day, whether we are even full-time commissioners. But I'm very glad that a lot of dialogue partners in ASEAN have supported us, both from Western states and as well as those from East Asia and outside the ASEAN region.
Good morning. Andrew Koo from the Malaysian Bar. First of all, thank you, Datuk Sri, for hosting this briefing, and congratulations on your very nice new office space with a wonderful view. Congratulations to the Excellency Edmund and for the work that your team has done in producing the two declarations. My question is slightly off-center a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about human rights defenders who try to write articles and defend environmental rights, especially speaking on behalf of marginalized communities. One of whom is Murray Hunter, who has just been arrested and indicted in the Thai courts for defamation. Is this a new chapter in inter-ASEAN cooperation whereby someone who has annoyed the Malaysian government can get the Thai government to press charges against him? And what does it say for people like Murray Hunter and others who, as environmental defenders, write articles that are critical of a particular government? Will they now find that ASEAN is no longer a safe space for them to make these criticisms, and that people will come after them even in other ASEAN countries? Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. I have to look at the case a bit more specifically, but I read a bit about it in the media. I just don't want to go into that case and then the media today on Zoom as well. I know sometimes it just gets sidetracked. So I'll deal with it. Once there's a complaint that comes, we know about the case. So I've not acted on it, but we will act on it if there's a communication to us. Okay. Media. Oh,
Ya,
okay.
Assalamualaikum dan selamat pagi. Saya Isa daripada Berita Harian. Mungkin soalan saya ni mungkin keluar sedikit daripada konteks deklarasi ni, mengenai mungkin masih lagi dalam konteks ASEAN. So soalan saya mengenai isu pelarian Rohingya. So macam mana bagaimana ASEAN boleh mengimbangi keperluan kemanusiaan pelarian Rohingya ni dengan kedaulatan negara anggotanya? Mungkin sebab kita tengok ramai pelarian Rohingya ni pergi ke negara-negara yang seperti Malaysia, Indonesia. So jadi apa nasib mereka? So mungkin lagi satu, situasinya apa pandangan Suhakam itu sendiri dalam konteks ASEAN mengenai keadaan pelarian Rohingya ni? Dia kebanyakan mereka ni masih perlu bekerja, perlu menyara keluarga, tapi tidak dibenarkan setengah-setengah negara-negara yang mereka singgah seperti Malaysia atau Indonesia sekalipun. So jadi apa pandangan Datuk Seri ataupun Cik Iman sendiri?
Terima kasih atas soalan. Kerana soalan ditanya dalam bahasa Malaysia, saya akan jawab dalam bahasa Malaysia. Ya. Pendirian Suhakam tidak berubah. Ya. Kita dari ambil approach human rights, kan? Ya. Pendirian kita sentiasa pelarian are entitled to their human rights. Ya. Tapi masalah, is it working? Masalah yang kita dari segi from what the point of view Suhakam is that yang pertama, we have yet to be a party to the Refugee Convention of 1951. That is what Suhakam has been pushing the government to do. It is 1951. This year is 2025. And how many years have elapsed? And 147 nations have been parties to this convention. Why is Malaysia is still not yet a party to this convention, this important convention? I'm very embarrassed by this fact. Yeah. So as far as Suhakam is concerned, we have been pushing for the government to be a party to this convention. Yeah. We have at the moment not many refugees here. You see, we have only about 200,000. Yeah. And majority are Rohingyas. 200,000 and majority are Rohingyas. But they have problem because of their status. We don't recognize them as refugees. We still regard them as undocumented immigrants. So that's the sad part, yeah. Whereas in truth, they are refugees and they ought to be treated as refugees. But unfortunately, we are not treating them as refugees. We are treating more them like party. Ya, pendatang tanpa izin, illegal immigrants. And the consequence is that first thing, they have no right to employment. They have no right to education. Their children cannot go to government school. They go to private school and they have no proper access to healthcare. So these are the things, that Suhakam is very concerned, having engagement with the Kementerian Dalam Negeri, trying to persuade them to appreciate the problem. If we have, if we are a party to the convention and we have proper laws in place, then they would have any problem with employment. They can, we can recognize their presence here legally because if we have law, if only we made the law, we can recognize them, their presence here legally so that they can have proper employment. When they have employment, they can be self-financing and they can live in this country with dignity. Then their children can have right to education and they can have right to health care. So that is my take on this. Yes, that is we are, as far as Suhakam is concerned, we are trying to still pushing the government to be a party to this convention. After all, there is not many refugees here. There's only about 200,000. So yeah, that is all that I have to say. Yeah.
Thank you, Dato'. So the question for the benefit of the English speakers is about the Rohingyas in Malaysia. What is our position? So bagi kita, I'll translate later. Bagi pendirian kami sama. Pendirian saya sama dengan Suhakam. Secara jelasnya, kamu boleh lihat bila saya menjadi wakil Malaysia kepada Aicha tahun 2016, 2017, 2018, saya adalah wakil pertama dengan wakil Indonesia yang membawa isu ini secara terbuka dengan media massa. Di mana kalau boleh ingat ada bot pelarian Rohingya yang datang dan ada kematian. So kita bawa isu ini bukan sahaja dengan media, tetapi kita juga telah membawa isu ini dalam semua meeting Aicha. Bagi 3 tahun saya di sana dan bagi tahun dari 2024, semua statement saya ada on the internet. Boleh baca daripada masa Myanmar sekarang dengan junta, dengan coup, dan terdapat lebih pelarian. Bukan sahaja pelarian Rohingya. Ada ramai lagi will speak to the Myanmar rep all the time, not just informally, but also in the meeting. And I put my statements in the public. My statements are all transparent. What I say about Malaysia's position. I talk about Myanmar and said, you have to stop the bleeding. You have to stop the source. Because we are having a lot of refugees from your country. And we don't have resources and capacity to deal with it. So the issue is not just for Malaysia to give the right to work, which I agree must, but also we are trying to deal directly with the Myanmar government to say, hey, you have to stop this and you have to look into recognizing them again. So this issue has been an issue, the Rohingya unfortunately have been crazily persecuted and it's even genocide, but we can only do it in terms of our human rights diplomacy. So kita ada bincang dengan negara Myanmar, tetapi kita boleh lihatlah apa perkembangannya. Mereka sekarang ingin buat pilihan raya. They want to do elections, right? Tetapi our position is your elections. I asked recently. I said, how many % do you control? And it's very clear, what the position is. So if your elections is not inclusive, your elections cannot cover areas, or you do sporadic elections, it's not elections that genuine, free and fair. So bagi kita, Malaysia, I think, the last meeting in Malacca, I again brought up the issue of Gaza. I brought up the issue of Sudan. I brought up the issue of Myanmar. Before that, I brought up issues of death penalty. So dalam commission ni, wakil-wakil semua ni, kita ada budi bicara. Dalam satu agenda yang dipanggil recent developments in ASEAN. So in the recent developments in ASEAN agenda, this agenda item started in 2021. We can raise all the human rights issues and all the challenges that ASEAN is facing. And I am very open about what the issues I raise because I have to be accountable to the Malaysian people. And for the Malaysian people, I'm very clear on our position. Refugees, Myanmar, issues of Gaza, issues of Sudan, issues of genocide, issues of how not only the positive outlook on human rights in ASEAN, what Malaysia is doing, for example, we will report. But we will report also this. But the best we can do is to do this diplomacy. At a higher level, we have Special Envoy Tan Sri Othman, we have our Foreign Minister, Tok Mat, we have our Prime Minister that are doing it at different political level. But you see, you must understand, ASEAN is not, we don't have a peacekeeping force. Right? Well, the extreme is what we call responsibility to protect. Even ASEAN don't have that principle. Not all of us agree to the R2P. Right? But when we talk about peacekeeper, what do you want? We need to send our soldiers down to the ground. Are we prepared to do that? We are not prepared to do that. If we are not prepared to do that, then we have to only use these human rights diplomacy channels, among others, which Malaysia has been using at the Commission. Tapi saya berharap sidang media ini bukan fokus terlalu banyak kepada isu inilah. I think fokus sidang media masa ini dengan ribuan terima kasih kepada Suhakam adalah untuk memberi satu pandangan secara komprehensif apakah deliverable Malaysia yang kami telah capai di dua sidang kemuncak ASEAN ni. Ini yang penting. Bagi isu-isu lain kita boleh bincang, tapi I think saya berharap media tidak macam, I know you have freedom to report what you want, but sometimes the focus of the press conference, I don't want to use the word like terpesong sometimes, and then something comes out as a different thing, But our position is the same as Suhakam on the Rohingya. We are as disappointed, we are as sad, we are as perplexed, right? But I'm saying that we are trying our best at the Commission where we can. We are raising the issues at regional level, and Suhakam also is raising it at national level. Terima kasih. Cukup?
So do you have anyone with questions?
Okay.
Okay, so that's all. All right. Thank you everyone for the constructive questions and meaningful insight shared. So as highlighted, these two ASEAN declarations mark a significant milestone for the regions, offering new opportunities for collaborations towards a future that is safer, more peaceful, and also more sustainable. So SOACAM will continue to work closely with ICHA, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, civil society, and all partners to ensure this commitment translate into meaningful actions. So, ladies and gentlemen, so that concludes our briefing sessions today. Thank you once again for your attendance and your continued support for Malaysia's human rights agenda. So, we wish you all a pleasant day ahead. Terima kasih. Jumpa lagi. Alright. So outside, actually, we did provide with light refreshments, and also we have provide a QR for you to want to download the slides in PDF. Actually, we provide it outside at the registration table. Thank you, everyone. Hopefully to see you again in the future. I can help you.
لا شوي بس تمام شوي بس